I'm here today with Dr. Daniel Hollar at Bethune-Cookman University, the psychology department.
How you doing, Duane?
How you doing? Dr. Hollar, I'd like to talk to you today about your time spent at the the Dozier Reform School in Marianna, Florida. Would you like to tell me a little bit about your time spent there working?
Sure. So I guess it was back in 2003 when I started graduate school at Florida State University, and as part of my training for the clinical psychology doctoral program, we did practicums. And these practicums were at different placements at state facilities. One of the placements that I had was at the Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys. And so what I did there was I was a part of a specialized treatment program that FSU was running, and that's where some of the graduate students got their clinical training. So we did assessments, diagnosis, and treatment of the boys there for sex offenses, anger management, substance abuse. This was back in, I think, about 2004 to 2006 or 2007. I did 3 rotations there at the Dozier School, and then I actually did one rotation at the level 8 facility they had on the campus, the Jackson Juvenile Offender Center that was on there. So basically, from what I remember, I can tell you a little bit about my first day there. My first day at Dozier was a very interesting day. So I was a part of this program where we're giving therapy services to the boys that were there. And I remember walking into one of the buildings where we had the psychology students were housed and the other therapists that were there. And so the way Dozier is set up is kind of designed to look like your average middle school or high school in the state of Florida. They're open walkways, breezeways that you walk through. It's not just one building. There are different units for classrooms, and then they have dorms and or what they call cottages off in the distance. And so as I was walking down the breezeway to my office, I saw a group of boys gathered in a circle, and I thought that was pretty weird that a group of boys, at this prison would be able to just be freely standing there in a circle. And so it caught my attention, and as I watched what was going on, there was actually a fight going on between a black kid and a white kid that were there. And the boys were around kind of rooting and cheering them on to fight, and there were correctional officers standing there watching this event. And so basically the boys were, throwing blows and going at it. And I was just amazed just watching this whole thing go down. This is my first day there. And I saw what appeared to be a supervisor that was coming on a go-kart. And that's when the correctional officer decided to break up the fight. And the boys, of course, didn't want to stop fighting. One of the boys was losing, so he kind of wanted to continue to get his licks in. He didn't want to stop fighting. And so what happened was the correctional officer picked the boy up and slammed him on the ground because he didn't want to stop the fighting before his supervisor got over there. And so when the supervisor got there and saw what was going on, he broke up the crowd, and they tried to pick the boy up off the ground. The boy said he couldn't get up because he hurt his ankle. And they thought he was lying. They picked him up, stood him on his feet. He dropped back down to the floor. They tried to pick him up again. He cried out and said, I can't walk, my ankle. So they got him and they put him in the go-kart and they drove him off. And it appeared like the kid who he was fighting was going to get a demerit or a mark or something for causing this injury, when it really looked like the injury was caused by the correctional officer who slammed him on the ground because he wasn't injured before then. So anyway, I went into my office after watching that, and I told my supervisor. And I said, I just saw so this weird situation. And my supervisor told me that, well, we're not really here to deal with those things. We're just here to deliver therapeutic services. And I was just a little bit shocked. I was like, okay. So again, this is like, my probably second year of graduate school. So I remember talking to a colleague of mine that had already worked there, another grad student, and I told him what I saw, and he says, "Welcome to Dozier." So basically the way that everyone responded, the culture there was that they were very nonchalant about these things that were occurring. If they weren't reported, and you were kind of, the way the system was set up is you just to turn a blind eye to it. Like, this was expected, this is what goes on there. I didn't know anything about the history of Dozier before I started working there, but apparently, that is a deeply ingrained culture at that facility, after I've done some research on it.
Okay. During your time there, can you tell me a little bit about the condition of the grounds on the north side?
From what I remember, and I'm not too keen on, the different sides of the campus, but the parts of the campus I was exposed to, it was a very large campus. It was like the size of a university-sized campus. Like, I think like Florida A&M could fit on that campus of Dozier. It was huge. The grounds looked very well kept. Everything was cut nice and neat. They had big tall trees around, pine cones that would periodically fall throughout the year. And the buildings were this red brick type color. These cottages that they had with these burgundy colored roof tops. When you first come into the facility, there's a big gate. The whole entire campus is gated. So you have to go through the main gate. They pass you in through security. You have to drive through, and then you drive down a long driveway until you get to where the cottages are, where the school actually is. And it looked like an immaculate place. Everything was well groomed, clean cut. Grass was cut all the time. They had the boys actually do a lot of the work there on the facility. They had some special programs as well, like masonry and like an auto mechanic shop. I used to have some of the kids there work on my car. That was a way that they could get experience. And so we were encouraged, like, hey, let the kids there, work on your car, change your tires, things like that, so they could get this work experience. They would get certificates for doing this kind of work or doing the brick masonry work. So it looked like, on the outside, it looked like a well-oiled machine, and it looked very decent as far as aesthetics go.
Now, when you were there,
Mm-hmm.
during your time there, did the place look like it was becoming run down or deteriorated? There's been a lot of, books written on it, a lot of rumor about the different types of things happening at the Dozier School. There was a north side and a south side. Mm-hmm. The Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune dorm, as they said, was the biggest dorm on campus. While you were there, did you ever get a chance to look at that dorm?
Right. So when I was there, I do remember a dorm or a cottage named Bethune, where a lot of the boys were housed. But this was a more modern structure. This dorm that I saw, that was named Bethune. I've seen pictures of the previous dorm that was named Bethune, and I don't think at all that this was the same facility. I mean, if it is, a lot has changed since 2005, 2006.
They did close the school down in 2008. That was after your term there.
Right.
Up until that time, give us your opinion on how you felt about the school itself.
How I felt about the school itself. It was a very interesting facility. So there were black men there that were correctional officers that worked there. There weren't that many black males that were teachers there. And as far as the psychology program goes and therapy goes there, mostly what I remember were white women that were there teaching these young black and Hispanic males about healthy masculinity and healthy sexuality. I remember one particular instance when one of the juveniles that I was working with as his individual therapist, I was assigned to him as his individual therapist. He was also in a group for sex offender behavior with someone who happened to be my supervisor at the time, who also went through the FSU program such as I did. So in the notes, because it's my job to review the notes and see how he's progressing through the system, it was revealed, and he brought it to my attention that he thought he was going to end up failing his program. And I said, why is that? And so he went through this thing and explained to me that he wasn't getting along with the supervisor of the group. So when I reviewed the record, I saw that he had previously failed the program, and I spoke with the supervisor, and it was because she felt like he was not making eye contact with her, and so she kind of felt he wasn't engaged and he wasn't taking the program seriously, and he was, I guess, untrustworthy. He needed to repeat the program, so she had the authority to make him repeat the program, which of course means he has to stay there for another year. So this time around, when I had him, the problem was that it was the end of the program for him, and the supervisor was going to fail him again and make him repeat it. And this time what she said was that he was glaring at her. So it was very interesting to me that at 1 year you were saying he's not making eye contact, which is a cultural thing, and if you're not culturally competent, you don't understand that a lot of young black men, black boys, don't make eye contact with you out of a matter of respect. They tend to, look down or look off to the side. Even I do that from time to time, and I have to consciously tell myself to look at someone in the eye, right? So it was just interesting that 1 year he's not looking at